or whatever, or you're a salesman, or you mentioned the clunker car and all that kind of stuff. So those are some things that have given salespeople, a bad taste in many, prospects' mouths. They're like, they can't trust anyone. So this is a time in our lives when trust is the most important thing that you're selling. Because when you're on the phone with someone, I always looked at a sales call that if I got, some intel, how they run their business, what their dreams were, what do they wish would happen, what's the difference between the way they felt in January before COVID hit than what they feel now, getting into their business psyche, if you will, then that whole pipeline thing that you're talking about, when I do follow up with them in December or February or whatever it is going to be that call. They won't forget you. And you can say things to trigger their memory. Then you have memory triggers, and you can say, I know you told me that you were concerned about your son, Alex, going to school. And I was just curious, how did he handle that? How did those things go? And that's the kind of stuff that we're doing right now that, people use. And I'm putting up in the air right now, my four fingers going air quotes, to relationship building. And, it's such an easy couple of words to say, but it is the truth. When you pick up the phone, when you were calling in December, it's completely different than now. And we're going on almost a year. So when you're making that call, it has to be a different conversation. It cannot be ignored. And it isn't just a blast of numbers and somebody's going to buy an ad from you. No, I want a bunch of people to know who I am. So that when the time is right, and maybe it is right now, and maybe they just need help in realizing that. Because I'll tell you, I'm a big TV junkie. I love my TV at night. I don't see any shortage of ads. How about you, Tim?
No, you're right. People are advertising, and it's surprising to me how quick they are with it.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw an ad with someone wearing a mask, and I was like, wow, that was quick.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, how'd they do that already? I feel the same way. And the ads that are pertaining to, the whole staying at home and what people are doing at home and that kind of thing. And I would lean on that. I'd be calling HelloFresh. I'd be calling all these places that, are delivering, food to people's houses so that they can continue to cook, but they don't have to go to the grocery store. I'd call every one of those, that what's that Blue Apron and everything. And I would get their names on there, because a lifestyle is different. What do people do at home? And so whether it's, the gaming industry or what have you, or how are people finding a way to entertain themselves at home, or athletic shoes or whatever, people are still buying things, and people need to know of those things that are out there. So, it's a different way of selling. People are buying and selling differently and doing things differently. And the whole delivery services, all of the Ubers, all of the Uber Eats, all of those are new prospects that I would have never called 2 years ago. I wouldn't even have thought of it, Tim.
Right.
Are you writing this down?
What's that?
I just thought about it. I'm like, are you writing this down?
Yes, you've already said a few things that I've written down. But yes, I definitely, those HelloFresh, there's so many different new opportunities, especially for what I do, that has opened up. And again, I like to call them opportunities, because there's so many different new avenues that people need things. And I always look back at history and how history has changed the world, or different events have changed the world moving forward. And for a while we were just looking for things to get back to normal.
Yep.
But I think right now we're looking for things to get to what the new normal will be.
Yeah.
and there's always some historic event that may cause that, but moving forward, there's a lot of different prospects and opportunities that have come from this that will help another business grow and get connected with the community.
Absolutely. And think of this. I mean, even if you were in the arena of selling business machines, well, now guess who needs copiers and fax machines in their homes again? Everybody, because they're working from home. Yeah. So if I was selling business machines, I'd be all over it and getting my, my products and the smaller frame. I'd be calling the companies to be able to put these into their employees' homes. Everybody wants just to work off of the Canon from Target or Walmart or wherever these small printers are. That isn't going to cut it for all of these executives and such that are working from home. So there's a lot. You just have to, a true salesperson. We go back to that foundation and preparedness. A true salesperson has to have the ability to A, have an open mind, and B, be able to, kind of embrace the change. The possibility of, this is uncomfortable for me, but I have to talk differently. I have to come up with a whole new script, a whole new way of thinking. But by being able to do that and get out of your comfort zone, I'm actually writing a book about comfort zones, being able to move on from that is what makes you successful. You and again, we'll go back to sports. I mean, you look at Tom Brady when he first started out, I know it's very controversial, but when he first started out, is he the same person? No. He had to develop and change and react. And that's how, some people say, about different offenses or different defenses. Oh, this is what that looks like from that team. But when they're playing different teams, it can't, because every single one of them is different. And so pretty much any industry, name it, and name any industry, and you can find a way to have a different conversation that's comfortable, that makes sense, and that will eventually help them with their business and make you money in the long run. Look, this is what I do for a living. I contact businesses to help them grow. I can't stop doing that just because of COVID. My conversations might be different, but I can't stop doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or every business would collapse. And we can't have that. So it's an adaptability in a way that you do, and you just kind of conform with nature and become a part of it, and become a part of that fabric that's going to make a difference. So I have a couple of questions. I did have a couple other things, just kind of from that successful salesy kind of guy that you are, that you've been in this industry, you've done other things in your past. What was your best sale? What was the greatest one where you were like, my heart's pounding out of my chest, the sweat's rolling down my back, they said yes, everything fell into play perfectly? Do you have one of those or a couple of those? Is there any that you thought might have not come into play and then suddenly did, and you're like, damn, that's awesome? I mean, give me that great, awesome feeling experience that happened to you.
Yeah, there's two that come to mind right away. I think first was from my first sales experience, and that was as a car salesman. Mm-hmm. And there was a car that came in, and I actually took this car in on the trade. It was a beautiful car. It was a Toyota Camry, and I believe it had like 5,000 miles on it. And when it came in, the customer wanted a new vehicle, and money was no object for this customer. So they pretty much gave their car to the dealership to resell. And so, it was low overhead into this car, no maintenance needed. So the car basically went to detail and went out on the lot. And if you sold cars before, mm-hmm. you can imagine the right. commission on a car like that.
Yeah.
it sat on the line, and everyone tried to push everyone into this. And the problem was, I worked at a Ford dealership, and it was a Toyota. So most people that you had coming to the lot were, they were looking for a Ford. But I remember, talking with some customers, and they were telling me what they wanted, and I said, well, boy, do I have the deal for you. And we walked over to the car. They fell in love with it. I remember all the sales reps, the sales managers, they were standing in the window. It was a January night in Indiana at that time, so it was cold.
Wow.
And everyone staring in the window. And, I came in, I got the keys. They were like, all right, just keep it calm. It's a normal car. It's a regular car. And, they were so excited. And I remember, the customer loved the car. And, again, if you know car sales, they got it for a good price, but we had it for the best price. So it was a win-win for everyone. And, that was probably one of the better paychecks I got, coming into sales, that, I had butterflies. And the good thing about it, again, I was able to help someone and help myself at the same time. Then I think the second one that kind of gives me butterflies is more recent. I was at a previous company before where I am now, and I call all over the nation. I was located in Denver, Colorado, but I called out to a company in New York, and I spoke to a guy probably a week before who said he might be interested in doing some online marketing, and he gave me his name was Enzo Ferrari. That's what he said when we got the phone. He's like, call me back. My name's Enzo Ferrari. And I'm like, oh, great, Enzo Ferrari. This guy's a joke. And so, but as I always do, I followed up with our appointment time. He, told me to call back, and I called back, and I said, may I speak to Enzo? They're like, who? They're like, Enzo Ferrari. And they're like, okay, hold on for a second. And they came back. They said, you said Enzo Ferrari, correct? I was like, yes, I said Enzo. I understand. This may not work out. I'm just looking for them to say, there's no one here named Enzo Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
So they put me on hold for a few more minutes. Guy gets on the phone. He's like, sorry about that. Tell me. He's like, I was in a meeting, and I forgot to tell someone that someone might be asking for Enzo. He's like, what I do personally when there's, a product that I want, because so many people call me trying to make a sale. If it's something that I want, I tell them to call for Enzo Ferrari because that's high end and I know I want it. And so he's like,
what?
He's like, let's do the deal. Yeah, and he said, let's do the deal. Everything that we talked about, he did, and that sale ended up being one of the highest grossing revenue sales for the company that I worked at the time. I still talk to people at the company, and they say that company is still bringing in some of the highest revenue. It's a business out of New York, and so that was a pretty good.
Oh my God, that's awesome! That's a great story. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, I love to find this out because this next question I'll lead up to it is that, there's so many people in the world and in our lives that say we're crazy for being in sales and they could never do that. And, oh my God, I couldn't take it, and I know I coined the phrase, we get told for a living on purpose. We're picking up the phone knowing somebody's going to say no to us. But somewhere along the way, when we were in our lives, you could have been very young. You could have been a little boy. You could have been a young man. You could have been in your career. Somewhere along the way, you got the bite. I love sales, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is why. And it was that first selling experience or what have you. And maybe it was the car that you sold, the Toyota in a January night in a Ford dealership. I love that. That sounds like a song. It really does. You never know. But what was it, that made you even want to pursue or continue what triggered you to be in sales?
Okay, I'll try to make this short, but I have to preface this by saying that I grew up. My father